I'm here at the scene of the crime spree, right behind me.
Hey, stranger.
Vice Mayor Strange, you'll address her properly.
You can kiss my foot.
Mr. Lincoln, you're out of order.
FBI, we are asking you to investigate this council. Please look into this council, how they award contracts, the bid process, how they use their positions to benefit their friends and themselves, how they use their positions to attack residents and critics and neighbors and business competition. FBI, will you please look into this?
And I welcome the FBI here. If you notice, Mr. Thompson, with his plea for the FBI and his watchdog group, this city runs the cleanest in this whole county. I guarantee
He was served a federal subpoena this
We
morning.
did receive a subpoena this morning, and we're going to cooperate 100% with the subpoena. And
Most of you who were involved up here, you gaslighted me. You tried to say I was crazy. And now we know that that's not true. And there's a lot of other issues I've been asking about as well.
Take two. Take two on a Friday night. This won't be very long, but it'll be amazing what I'm going to show you. You know, it occurred to me just before I started the show. I mean, I guess I've thought about it, but I never really put it into words in my own head. So I'll share with you what I noticed. And that is WMBB. We already know they interfere with elections, right? And they are really tampering with the jury pool, which isn't going to matter really at this point. It's what they did yesterday in their reporting of the Lynn Haven corruption trial is just a desperate, angry. They're just flailing. I mean, they're just flailing away. But what they're doing is particularly evil, actually, toward Antonius Barnes. What they said toward Margot Anderson and toward James Finch, the last remaining defendant in the Lynn Haven corruption case, which was a complete deflection away from the real public officials who had been basically robbing the county blind. Do you know, I got to get the exact number, but after the hurricane, there was probably nearly $500 million of FEMA money that came through Bay County. I think it was at least $400 million. Does it look like, when you look around Bay County, does it look like $400 million of FEMA money came through here? I think that figure is accurate. Now, how much of that do you think went into the pockets of establishment players around here? And what the feds are doing and what the sheriff's office is doing is they are focusing on a $5,000 check that was written, not received, by James Finch in 2017, before Hurricane Michael. That's what this is all about at this point. Is that amazing? It's deflection. And so what happened yesterday is there's how many days until the trial? 10? It's on the 13th. 10 days before the trial of James Finch, about a $5,000 check written in 2017 to Antonius Barnes. That's the Fed. That's what this is all about. And so 10 days before the trial last time, the prosecutors dropped all the charges against Mayor Margot Anderson and said, if you just admit that you met Mickey White in October instead of December, like you told us, just say you lied to the FBI and all of this goes away and we won't re-indict you. Okay. So they're trying. I expect these kind of games leading up to the trial because I still do not believe that they want a trial over this. It's embarrassing. Could you imagine being on a jury, and you tell your family, "Gosh, I got jury duty." You say, "Boy, it's a big case. It's an FBI federal case about a conspiracy in government over in Lynn Haven." And they say, "My God, how much money was involved?" And you say, "Well, this wealthy developer who got 5-0 votes and 4-0 votes after staff recommended the projects. It's really about a $5,000 check." I say, what? A federal case over a $5,000 check? I heard millions and millions and millions of dollars went through Bay County after the hurricane. Yeah, but this is about a $5,000 check that a guy wrote. They don't want to go to trial. Are you crazy? So, in my opinion, and this is opinion now, the prosecutors are trying games again. They got 10 days to get out of this. They could always just dismiss it, just drop it, which I kind of expect them to do before I expect to see them at trial. Or they can come up with something else, and that's what they tried to do yesterday. The prosecutors said that James Finch was talking to witnesses that were on a no contact list. And he had to get his butt down to Tallahassee yesterday and get in front of not Judge Walker, but in front of the magistrate, the bond magistrate. Yeah. And the prosecutors went up there and they said, "Judge, James Finch has been talking to witnesses in this big case we have against him. Trial's coming up in less than 2 weeks." Judge said, "My God, he's been doing what?" Right? "What do you have to say for yourself?" Finch's defense attorney. And the defense attorney said, "Well, the government just turned over their witnesses for the trial, right? And the prosecutors are only calling 3 people as witnesses against James Finch, only 3. And James didn't talk to any of those 3 people. Do you want to know who the 3 witnesses are? If you heard that there was a big federal case for conspiracy, right? Like, let's say you're watching one of these crime dramas on TV, these courtroom dramas on TV. Do you normally see like the law enforcement or the people who investigated it? They're up there saying, "This is what he did. Here's the evidence. We chased his ass down and we finally caught him." Right? You would expect that. I'm going to tell you who is on the witness list and what the magistrate said yesterday when the feds pulled James down to Tallahassee and said, "Your Honor, he's been talking to the witnesses." Yeah, I'm going to tell you about that right after this. It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at PCAirRepair.com. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. All right. So here's what WMBB, they did 2 things yesterday. The video, you're not going to believe. The news video that they did on this yesterday was so incredibly dishonest. But let's take a look at what they published before that. Here you go. Can you see that? So before they knew what happened in the courtroom yesterday, They published something that said a pretrial services officer has accused a defendant in the Lynn Haven corruption case accused a defendant in the Lynn Haven corruption case violated the terms of his release. So that's not even a sentence. So they're saying that he violated the terms of his release. Release? What the hell? He's been in jail? No. But when you get indicted and arrested, you have to go in front of a bond magistrate, and they set the terms, right? You're not allowed to travel. You're not allowed to have a gun. You got to meet with your pretrial officer so many times. You got to be a good boy, or else we're going to throw you in the slammer, right? Well, the Lynn Haven defendants, at least the ones I know about, Margot Anderson and James Finch, they were not in jail or in prison waiting for the trial. Could you imagine? 2.5 years. But no, they've had to abide by the pretrial agreement. And so WMBB says, oh my God, the feds say, look at the bottom, feds say Lynn Haven defendant contacted witnesses. Oh, he's in trouble now, boy. All right. So they go in front of the magistrate yesterday. And the judge says, what do you have to say for yourself? And the defendants say, well, they're only calling 3 witnesses. Now, there's a list of, 30 people that they're not allowed to contact. But only 3 of these people are actually going to be testifying against James Finch. It's not nobody with the sheriff's office, nobody with the FBI, no investigators at all. It's going to be 2 of the people who have pled guilty, former city manager Michael White, who has shown himself to be, and even the investigators say is he's pled guilty, is a crook and a liar. He's other things. All people are more than that, okay? That's not all Michael White is. He is a human being, all right? So I do consider that stuff. But he's certainly not trustworthy. And he certainly has motivation to say things that would suggest that he did what the feds say he did, so a jury would convict him, right? He's not being sentenced until after this. Part of his agreement is you cooperate with us, you testify against James Finch. So do you imagine the pressure on a witness like Michael White? Well, who are the other 2 witnesses? Mickey White is the other one. He was the owner of ECS, the nephew of the late Derwin White. These guys conspired to steal $5 million from the city of Lynn Haven. Now, the investigators haven't chased that down. Now, I did talk to one, and he said, look, we did chase it down. ECS went and bought tractors and, gave the money to some people and stuff. I said, what people? Where's the $5 million? I know everybody wants to know. Some people do know. Some people have some. So Mickey White also pled guilty. His sentence comes after the hearing, and it's surely dependent upon how good of a witness he is, right? So you got these 2 guys. Who's the third one? Well, it's Joel Schubert. What? Joel Schubert is they're going to bring up Joel Schubert. What's he going to say? What is his deal? Well, Joel Schubert he's currently the assistant county manager at Bay County. He was the city manager in 2017 when this $5,000 check was written by James Finch to Antonius Barnes. So he was the city manager. He was one of the guys who actually the staff recommended the projects in question, and the commission voted unanimously on it. So Joel Schubert has not been indicted. He's been mentioned in some of these things, some of this paperwork, but he hasn't been indicted. And I don't know, but I could imagine what the feds might say to a guy like Joel Schubert, who's found either his name or his title in these documents. You know, now I'm going to go into conjecture. Okay, this part here, I do not know, but I can imagine. The feds might say, hey, Mr. Schubert, you know, we've been looking closely at you, and we need you to testify against James Finch, because we're not going to put our guys up there, for God's sake. Cross-examination would be hell. So we need you. What? What am I recommended the project. Yeah, but, you know, if you don't want to be indicted, we're going to have you say some stuff. That's my conjecture. That's how I imagine it might go. Those are the three witnesses. So when the magistrate yesterday said, well, what are you guys even here for? The trial is in several days from now. No. Now, what you're going to see in the video, so the magistrate, by the way, denied the petition to sanction Finch. In what way? I don't even know. I thought that the prosecutors might be trying to put Finch in jail until the trial. That's what I thought. But that's not what happened. The prosecutors didn't even ask for that. I don't even know what sanction they were asking for. But it was denied because it was irrelevant and desperate, right? This is incredible, isn't it? So it's, and how did this even happen? Are you ready for this? You're going to love this part. So one reason this happened yesterday is because city manager Vicky Gaynor called the FBI or talked to the FBI or told the FBI, you know, when I was a witness in front of Judge Walker on December 12th, I saw James Finch talking to Judy Tinder. Judy Tinder, the candidate for mayor? Uh-huh. And she's on his no contact list. So now Vicky Gaynor told the FBI that. It didn't happen. So she's got a long history of telling the FBI things that didn't happen, about me even. Now, there was a debate yesterday, a candidate forum in Lynn Haven. I went to it, and I saw Vicky Gaynor. Vicky Gaynor and I used to be on good terms, very friendly. We didn't talk much, but I knew her as far back as 2008 when she worked at the News Herald. I was on the radio, and I brokered a deal where the Talk Radio 101 would advertise would cross-promote each other. The News Herald and us. That's back when the News Herald was actually a decent paper. You say, Bernie, it was never decent. It actually was in 2008. But boy, when I saw her yesterday, and it was like from me to you right now. We were really close to each other. I tried to walk straight to her and then turn left. And she was standing with her back against like a wall. So I had to get real close to her, and I made eye contact with her and nodded. Hi. Boy, you talk about a stone face. She looked right at me. She looked right at me and made no expression except I could almost hear what she was thinking. And I'm like, why are you mad at me? You're the one who told the FBI lies about me. It wasn't a lie, Bernie. I heard rumors about you. And that's how your name got in these documents. Unbelievable. So it was Vicky Gaynor who told these guys this stuff, dragged Finch down to Tallahassee, and the magistrate is like, what are you guys doing? But to hear WMBB tell the story, which you're going to hear now, you would think that the magistrate just dressed James Finch down, up one side, down the other side. No, it wasn't like that. I mean, what the public reads and hears from WMBB is a very desperate and deceitful PR operation coordinated with, and it's illegal to do this, coordinated with, I think, I don't know, I think with the prosecutors. I think they got a really great relationship. But as Ayn Rand said, WMBB, she was talking to you. You can ignore reality, which you are, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. I look on WMBB's page when they post this on Facebook, and the comments are like, first of all, almost no. Do you know how when they first started reporting about the Lynn Haven corruption, it was like their top stories. Now they get very few clicks. They get very few comments. And the ones they get, people, they no longer believe you. And for people who say, well, Bernie, you're just defending Margot and James. No, actually, about a year and a half ago, my comments were not like this because I hadn't seen the evidence. And I had never met James Finch at that point. I'd heard about him, big player in town, right? And when I have to report these things about people like James Finch or Derwin White or Major Jimmy Stanford or the sheriff, it's scary. It's really scary. These people have the ability to shut you up. All right. It's pretty damn scary. And I didn't know what the hell Finch thought of me. I certainly didn't think he was innocent of these charges. But I'll tell you what, when you read the evidence, there's nothing there that supports these charges against him on these counts. Nothing. And so I've been telling you what I see as I see it, digest it, and understand it. And now here we are. There were 86 charges combined against Margot Anderson, James Finch, and Antonius Barnes. There are 2 left. That's 98% dropped by the prosecutors or dismissed by the judge. 98% of them. So if I didn't know Bernie Thompson and I were watching this, I'd say, well, geez, what Bernie's been telling us has been true. Just look at where we are now. What WMBB is telling us has been completely false. And it is my opinion that we have institutions in Bay County like WMBB and the sheriff's office that are working hard to influence elections and change the landscape of the business that the county is into in St. Joe, development. They wanted to change that stuff. I know for sure they wanted certain people elected. "10 days till trial." I do want to tell you something, though, because I got a phone call 2 days ago after the last show. When I was reading the FBI memos and when I told you what I saw on December, well, it was back in late March. It was about a little more than almost a year ago at the evidentiary hearing. And I told you, and this is a sensitive topic, I don't like to bring it up because it has to do with a family member who died. And it has to do with the head of the sheriff's public trust unit, Major Jimmy Stanford, who was at one time good friends with Derwin White. And Derwin White, we're told, was the target of the investigation. And we have found out that Major Jimmy Stanford had received gifts long ago from Derwin White, like a motorcycle. And one of the questions that the FBI asked Major Stanford was, who paid for your sister's funeral? Sensitive topic. And he said, I did, with a credit card. And then he told the judge that. And then he came back a few days later and amended his statement. So people have been saying, and I will maintain this, that if the FBI wanted to, they could construe that as a lie. They do that. But Jimmy Stanford called me and he said, I did not lie about that. Here is what happened. And I said, well, Jimmy, if you tell me this, I will tell the audience what you said. I'll set the record straight. This is what Stanford said. So I hope I get this right. Major Stanford told me that he did pay for his sister's funeral on a credit card. I think it was like $3,000. Okay. And then he did not, it was more than that. The total price was more than that. And then he did not receive an invoice. He didn't receive any, they sort of forgot about it. And I can understand how that could happen at a time like that. So after he was asked about it last year in the courtroom in front of Judge Walker, after he was asked about it, he said he went home, asked his wife about it. Did we ever get any more bills for that? And just to be on the safe side, Major Stanford said that he called the funeral home. And that's when he found out that Derwin White had come behind him and paid the rest of it off and never told Major Stanford that. Just sort of helped out a friend at the time. All right. So Major Stanford didn't know that. That's what he told me on the phone. And so when he found that out after he testified in front of the judge, then he called the FBI and notified them and made the amended statement to the court. So anytime Chris Forehand, I've talked to a lot of these people, they tell me something that is different than what it says in the FBI memo or in front of the judge, and they have a reason and an explanation, and their name's on the line, their character, their reputation's on the line, I'll tell you that this is what they said happened. All right. Now, there are a lot of things in Major Stanford's 302 that I would love to talk to him about, but the time's not right and the mood's not proper because trial is in 10 days. So we'll be looking closer at all of this stuff at the trial. He also tells me that there is strong evidence that will convict, that would have convicted the other ones, just like, the city attorney and the others, said, yep, we did it, made a plea deal because there was evidence. All right. I haven't seen it. And we've got like 4,000 pages that the judge released, FBI memos, Bay County Sheriff reports, land surveys, all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't point at Margot and it doesn't point at James Finch. So anyway, I felt obligated to tell you that because I respect anybody who calls me and says, look, this is what happened, pass it on. And I do. All right, now let's get back to this. Here is the way, you're not going to believe this. Here is the way WMBB reported what happened yesterday. Jeez, I'll show you that right after this.
Have you received a speeding ticket for which you want no points placed onto your driving record? I'm El Saline, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
You're absolutely not going to believe this. So you heard what I told you, right? James Finch goes to the magistrate yesterday in Tallahassee. They say he's been talking to witnesses. The defense says, James Finch's attorney says, there's only 3 witnesses: Michael White, Mickey White, and Joel Schubert. So when city manager Vicky Gaynor calls the FBI and says, I saw him talking to Judy Tinder. First of all, it didn't happen, which is kind of par for the course now with Vicky Gaynor. Second of all, she's not a witness. So they dismissed it and said, just knock it off. Wait till you get to trial. So here we go. This is how Huey Lewis and the News reported it, though. I'm going to play it all the way through once, and then I'm going to play it through and tell you the parts that are so deceitful and dishonest that they are doing all they can to influence elections, to tamper with witnesses. It's unbelievable. Here you go.
The final defendant in the Lynn Haven corruption case will remain free while he awaits his trial. Federal magistrate chastised Phoenix construction owner James Finch this afternoon during a hearing to consider his bond status. Federal probation officer accused Finch of talking to witnesses, which is against the conditions of his pretrial release agreement. Finch is awaiting trial on conspiracy and bribery charges for allegedly bribing former Lynn Haven City Commissioner Antonius Barnes. Barnes has pled guilty and will testify. But in today's hearing, prosecutors told the judge that the witnesses that Finch talked to are not involved in this case. They were connected to the larger conspiracy charges that were dropped after former Lynn Haven Mayor Margot Anderson took a plea deal and pled guilty last month. Earlier today, we reported that prosecutors claimed Finch spoke to Lynn Haven City Manager Vicky Gaynor back in December, who was a witness in the case. But during the hearing today, they say they made a mistake. Prosecutors say that Finch broke the rules in December by speaking with City Commissioner Judy Tinder at the hearing in Tallahassee. Tinder was part of the witness pool set to testify at the hearing. She has since resigned to run for Lynn Haven mayor. The magistrate judge presiding over the hearing warned Finch that he was risking his freedom with the alleged behavior. After the hearing, prosecutors and defense attorneys met with Judge Mark Walker for a pretrial hearing. Judge Walker explained prospective jurors that will come from the Tallahassee pool of potential witnesses or potential jurors, pardon me. He also added that any juror familiar with the case will be tossed out. Finch's trial is set to begin on March the 13th.
All right.
The final defendant.
So, no. First of all, notice the tone of Tom Lewis, Huey Lewis and the News, WMBB's news director. So, I'm going to bring up a couple things right off the top. Number one, I think his first comment is something like that James Finch remains free or something like that. Or here, let's listen.
The final defendant in the Lynn Haven corruption case will remain free while he awaits his trial.
In other words, he's not in jail. He's never been in jail. And yesterday at this hearing, prosecutors never even asked for that. It was never on the table. So why would Tom Lewis imply that James Finch is walking free, even though he talked to witnesses in the case? It's a lie. It's a lie from beginning to end. It's so incredibly deceitful, and he knows this.
The final defendant in the Lynn Haven corruption case will remain free while he awaits his trial. Federal magistrate chastised Phoenix construction owner James.
No. The magistrate dismissed the prosecutor's petition to, I don't know what, revoke his bond. I don't know what the hell they wanted to do. They didn't say. They certainly didn't say they want to put him in jail. All right. So Finch didn't get chastised. He wasn't talking to the witnesses. Unbelievable.
James Finch this afternoon during a hearing to consider his bond status. Federal probation officer accused Finch of talking to witnesses, which is against the conditions of his pretrial release agreement. Finch is awaiting trial on conspiracy and bribery charges for allegedly bribing former Lynn Haven City Commissioner Antonius Barnes
with a $5,000 check in 2017.
Barnes has pled guilty and will testify, but in today's...
Now, did you hear that? So Finch is he says being tried for conspiracy to bribe Barnes. And then Tom Lewis says Barnes pled guilty. I'm gonna tell you, Antonius Barnes, you are a public figure because you were a commissioner. And I normally do not encourage public figures to sue for defamation, but you probably should. They are damaging your character and reputation by doing that. They just said that you pled guilty to that. Barnes did not plead guilty to that. Barnes pled guilty to a separate offense of not listing a liability on a federal bank loan. That's it. And he has always said, by the way, and I anticipate he'll say it again, that he never sold his vote to James Finch. And by the way, even if he did, it was unanimous. He wasn't the deciding vote. I can't wait if there's a trial to see how this goes. So listen to that. They just said that Barnes pled guilty to that.
Finch is awaiting trial on conspiracy and bribery charges for allegedly bribing former Lynn Haven City Commissioner Antonius Barnes. Barnes has pled guilty and will testify. But in today's hearing, prosecutors told the judge that the witnesses of Finch talked to are not involved in this case. They were connected to the larger conspiracy charges that were dropped after former Lynn Haven Mayor Margot
dropped by the prosecutors. And now they're going to say they were dropped after Lynn Haven Mayor Margot Anderson pled guilty. She didn't plead guilty to those 64 charges. The prosecutors were eager to drop the 64 charges. She instead pled guilty about when she met Mickey White. And she didn't even have to. When's the last time you heard of a plea deal where the person who gets the deal does not even have to cooperate with the government? No, none of that. But they do the same thing to her. Anybody listening is going to think that she pled guilty to this big conspiracy. This is incredible. This is really defamation. And I know a lot about defamation law, believe it or not. I've been through two of them, won them both. Public figures, they go through it, but this is defamation. Defamation lawsuits are painful. But this is.
Were connected to the larger conspiracy charges that were dropped after former Lynn Haven Mayor Margot Anderson took a plea deal and pled guilty last month.
Wow.
Earlier today, we reported that prosecutors claimed Finch spoke to Lynn Haven City Manager Vicki Gaynor back in December, who was a witness in the case.
But no, remember, Vicki Gaynor is the one who told the FBI, I saw Finch talking to Judy Tinder. See, now they're trying to gin up a machine to make Judy Tinder look like she's involved in this while she's running for mayor. That's what WMBB does. They interfere with elections.
City Manager Vicki Gaynor back in December, who was a witness in the case. But during the hearing today, they say they made a mistake. Prosecutors say that Finch broke the rules in December by speaking with City Commissioner Judy Tinder at the hearing in Tallahassee. Tinder was part of the witness pool set to testify at the hearing. She has since resigned to run for Lynn Haven mayor. The magistrate judge presiding over the hearing warned Finch that he was risking his freedom with the alleged behavior after the.
Actually, Tom, what the judge did was he ruled in James Finch's favor. That's what he did.
Hearing, prosecutors and defense attorneys met with Judge Mark Walker for a pretrial hearing. Judge Walker explained prospective jurors that will come from the Tallahassee pool of potential witnesses or potential jurors.
Listen, Tom Lewis, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He sounds like Joe Biden right here. Forgive me. But, I mean, listen to Tom Lewis. just rambling and mumbling on, misleading. Golly, I mean, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, but to purposely deceive your community, in the craft that you're in the news business. This would be like being a doctor. You got a public trust. People think, okay, you're a doctor, you can help diagnose my illness and, maybe cure me, give me a treatment, right? But what if the doctor was purposely undermining you? That's a pretty big deal. Or let's say maybe you call the sheriff's office because you need the sheriff's office to come protect and serve you. And maybe the sheriff's office gets there and they do the opposite. Or then that would be similar to this. WMBB is deceiving their community in the craft that they're in. I mean, they're taking the public trust that they hold and using it to deceive you. That's amazing. That's disgusting.
Explain prospective jurors that will come from the Tallahassee pool of potential witnesses or potential jurors, pardon me. He
Get it
also
right,
added
Tom.
that any juror familiar with the case will be tossed out.
No
Finch's
kidding.
trial is set to begin on March the 13th.
No kidding, Tom. That's what they do. If you're familiar with the case, you get tossed out. This is unbelievable. All right, I can't anymore. I mean, do you think that WMBB, I mean, remember the Gallup poll that came out, the latest Gallup poll last year, in which they take a look at American institutions and see who are the most trusted and the least trusted. The very least trusted institution in America is Congress. And right above that, below 10% trust, is TV news. And you could take Tom Lewis's face, Huey Lewis on the news, and put it right next to Congressman Schiff's face or something. Could you imagine not even caring that nobody believes you? Now people might defend him, right? Because they've got some interest in this. And because they have an interest in it, they believe or they project that you must as well. A lot of us, our interest is in a more honest Bay County, a Bay County where everybody is treated equally under the law, where everybody has a chance for a contract, where politicians don't get kickbacks on every damn contract they vote on. That's what we want. And your gaslighting is, I don't think, working. I think you may not have any shame about this, but I'm telling you, your name is all you have. And people will talk bad about you. But when people know, I don't care what people say about him, he's lying to me. How are you going to be remembered? That matters to me. That matters to people. Where are the public officials who feel that way? There are a few of them. Judy Tinder, for one, resigned her seat to take a chance and run against the establishment's choice, Jesse Nelson. Arthur Cullen and Todd Neves were at the debate last night, handling their man. Some of us just want the truth. And some of us want to find the $5 million that was stolen from Lynn Haven. And we are kind of curious where the other $400 million went. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. I want to thank those of you who support my efforts, to include, of course, the Unknown Patriot. Thank you for your support so that I can do this barely. I sure appreciate, and I don't say this enough, but I appreciate all of you who support my efforts. Those of you brave enough to advertise, those of you who are patrons, those of you who have subscribed to my newsletter. By the way, that's a big help. And the newsletter just came out today, by the way. The Lynn Haven Weekly Roundup. You don't even need Facebook to see all the shows and read all the posts. One email a week? Are you kidding me? The post right below this. You can actually subscribe. It's free. But there is a way to express your support if you choose to. I promise it's worth it. All right. Thank you so much for being with me, and I will see you very soon.